Good afternoon, world. This is Ivan O'Mara. Just came back from work. Hope you guys have enjoyed my shows about the CFL's bias and towards the American and the Canadian players. I guarantee all you Americans, when you enjoyed my shows, obviously I made in the past, you guys are probably all shocked. Holy shit, man, that's cold, Ivan. Yeah, even in the CFL, they have a bias towards the Canadian players. They do. They have a bias towards the American players. We're not really that valuable up here, the Canadian people. Yeah, I don't get it, man. All you NFL are probably wondering, Ivan, like, why are if the American players are a bit better than the best Canadian players in most cases, like, why are they not that valuable up here? Because they're American and the Canadians have their bias. And I don't mean to be an asshole, even though these guys are amazing talents, everyone in Canada, when these guys come here, they know they're your NFL rejects. So that's why the fans don't really care that much about these guys compared to the Canadian players. Because even though the American players who come up here are a bit more talented than the best Canadian players, like the Canadians playing in the CFL are actually the best players in Canada, man. They're not rejects. Like, they're the best football players playing up here in Canada. Whereas the American guys who come up here, even though they're a bit more talented in most cases, they're not the best talent in America. The best talent are all playing in your NFL. That's why, even though when they become CFL stars, the fans respect them and everything, and they're also American, the fans don't resonate with them. They don't know that much about these guys. Even though they respect them when they're CFL stars, they don't really care that much about the American guys. That's the truth. Yeah, they care more about the Canadian. They respect the Canadian pro athletes more than the American guys. Because the Canadian athletes playing in the CFL are actually the best players playing in Canada. All the draft picks and everything are the all-star players in the CIS, obviously. Whereas the players playing in the American players playing in the CFL are not the best players in America. They're your NFL rejects. Hence why the fans, when they're CFL stars, they love them and everything, but like they don't really care that much about them. Guys from Center, no, I said, yeah. They don't really care about the. I'm saying, Pageau's not very Ivan. That makes sense. That's why you guys don't really care about the American guys. Yeah, because we know they're American. We don't resonate with them. Like when these guys come up here and they play football, even though they're putting on a show, the fans are clues. They don't even know where these guys even came from. They're just guys who come up here from a different country who happen to put on a show in a different country in the Canadian Football League. Yeah, they're putting on a show, but the fans, they can't resonate with them. They don't even know who the fuck these guys even are. Yeah. They're just guys who come up here from out of nowhere from a different country who are rejects from the NFL who put on a show up here and become CFL stars. The fans love them, but I mean, they don't really care that much about them compared to the Canadian players. Obviously. Yeah, that's why. What if they become CFL legends? Yeah, when they become CFL legends, the Canadian football fans will respect them, but like because they're American and they don't know anything about these guys, and they also know they're NFL rejects. They respect them, but like they don't really care that much about them compared to the Canadian players. You guys know what I'm saying? Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, that makes sense. Yeah, that's why us Canadian fans don't really care about you American guys, obviously. But the CFL somehow thinks because they're a bit more talented than the Canadian players, we should promote these guys in the CFL in Canada. That's what the CFL thinks is the best way to grow the league. I beg to differ. I think the best way to grow the league CFL is by promoting the Canadian talent. Yeah, why would you promote some Canadian players? I don't know, maybe three players, 4 players in the CFL you promote, and all the other players are all these American guys. No one in Canada really knows about them. They don't really care about them. That's what I'm saying, huh? Yeah. Don't get me wrong, like the American players who come up here when they kill the league and they become CFL stars, you know what I'm saying, and the panel talks about them. A lot of fans in Canada are familiar with them, obviously. Yeah, this American guy's a CFL star, but But what? Like they don't really care that much about them because they can't resonate with them. They're American guys who they don't know anything about these guys, man. But because the CFL, yeah, the CFL knows, yeah, we know that Ivan, but they put on a show. Yes, guys, they put on a show, but like you know, what I'm saying your league has not been growing, and I think the reason why your league has not been growing because the fans in Canada they can't resonate with these American guys because they don't know anything about them. Like they're just guys who come up here from a different country who happen to kill the league, but the fans are clueless about them. They don't know anything about these guys, so it's very tough for them to resonate with the players. Yeah, right. When they become CFL stars, they love them. Yes, they love them, but even then, they don't really care about them because they're American and they can't relate to them. They also have their Canadian bias, obviously, and they also know they're NFL rejects. That's why they don't really care about these guys, right? Oh, yeah. That's why the fans in Canada don't really care about these guys, and that's how you CFL want to grow the league. You want to grow the league with rejects from the NFL and the CFL. That's how you want to grow the Canadian Football League with having all the star talent. Have all the star talent in the CFL be NFL rejects from the NFL instead of the best players in Canada who the fans actually love more and care more. That's how you guys want to grow the league. Ivan, even though we know the Canadians are more valuable, the best players in Canada, they're not as talented, Ivan. We can't take that risk. Yeah, obviously, because you guys are blinded by the American talent. Look, man, these American guys may put on more of a show up here in Canada, but they've been putting on a show for years, CFL, in your league, and you guys are not seeing any growth. And I believe, it's because the fans in Canada, they can't resonate with these American guys. They don't really care about them, man. That's the truth, man. They don't really care about these guys. I'm not even saying, yeah, they don't really care about these guys. Sarah? Yeah. Because they're unknowns. Yeah. That's some Sarah. They're unknowns, yeah. I believe CFL, if you got rid of the American talent and you had the star talent in Canada, the best players in Canada playing in the CFL, you can grow your CFL league to a $400-500 million league revenue business, man, I believe. In a good 10, 15, 20 years, you can grow to that, obviously. But the CFL, because they're blinded by the American talent, they think because they're putting on a show and it's more entertaining quality football, that's how they grow the league. In Canada, with the American talent in the States, who no one in Canada really cares about. Like, why even they care about them? Well, if they really care about them, how come your league's not growing? You guys are trying your best to promote all these guys from America, and yet no one in Canada really cares about these guys, man. Don't hang with them. Yeah, you guys from Sarah? Yeah. I think the coaches and GMs know the Canadian players are more valuable to the Canadian fans. Of course they do. They're not stupid, but because they're blinded by the American talent, obviously they're what? They're yeah. Even though the fans love the Canadian players a lot more than the American players, and they can relate to them more because they're Canadian, and a lot of them are familiar with the Canadian players because they got drafted and they saw them in college. Obviously, like they're not as talented. They don't put on as much of a show. The American players are more talented. They get their opportunity to shine up here. And you guys know how your league's not growing, because I think the people in Canada who love football, who watch television, they can't take your league seriously. Yeah. Yeah, it's a Canadian football league, and the CFL drafts the best Canadian players in the CIS, but none of them even get to be stars, and all the star players are all these NFL rejects from the States who come up here and we don't really care about these guys. Yeah, the guys, I don't mean to be an asshole to the CFL. The fans of Canada don't really care about these American guys, man. They don't care about them that much. Like, why are you trying? They may be talented, but like, no one in Canada cares about these guys, man. You know what I'm saying? No one cares about these guys. I'm saying, yeah. Well, Ivan, all you NFL players, Ivan, does the CFL League try to promote the American All Stars? Yeah, they do. They even have them speak at places too, or in Canada and all that stuff, at schools and everything. And some of the fans recognize them because they're CFL stars, but they don't resonate with these guys. They don't know anything about these guys, man. Yeah, this guy's a star American quarterback. They speak, but like it's very tough for the fans to resonate with them because they don't know anything about these guys. They know they're CFL stars and they know their names and everything, but they can't relate to them. They can't resonate with them because they're American players who came from a different country. You know what I'm saying? They're clues. They don't know anything about these guys, right? That's why they love them and they're CFL stars, but they don't really care about them that much. Why do they promote the Canadian athletes speak at schools? Yes, they do, but because most of the Canadian athletes who get drafted are all special teams players, even though the fans love the Canadian players, obviously they don't, because they're not CFL stars and they're not having an opportunity. They don't have as much respect for them because they're not stars. Because even a lot of the special teams Canadian athletes who are not, like most of the Canadian athletes who speak at universities and everything and places in Canada obviously are Canadian drafted players, but these guys are not stars. They're not stars. They're all like special teams players. So it's tough for the fans to take what the league seriously. Yeah, even though this Canadian athlete I love, I saw him at CLES. He's not a star in the CFL. All the stars, yeah, all the stars are all the American guys. Yeah, no one in Canada cares about CFL. No one in Canada cares about these guys, man. You come up here, man. No Hameson, yeah. No one cares about these guys. No Hameson, yeah. They care more about the Canadian talent. And you guys know that, yeah, we know that, Ivan, but like they're not as talented, Ivan. That's why you got to get rid of them. Get rid of those American guys, man, who come up here who no one really cares that much about, who are NFL rejects guys. Get rid of them. No one really cares about these guys. You think you're going to grow the league with NFL rejects from America. You want to grow the CFL with NFL rejects from America who no one in Canada really cares about, guys. That's how you want to grow the CFL. Yeah, and you know they're NFL rejects. They're very talented. Yes, they are. They're very talented. They put on a show. But people in Canada are not resonating with these guys. No one really cares about these guys, man. Like, I'm just being like, be honest, CFL. Do people in Canada really care about these guys who come up here, the American guys? They care about them, why? Well, if they really care about them, how come your league's not growing? You've been trying your best to promote the heck out of all these American quarterbacks, you know what I'm saying, running backs and receivers, and your league is not, your league has not seen much growth. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Does the CFL think the does the CFL think the league is not growing because of the American talent? The fans aren't resonating with the Canadian talent? No. Because the CFL is blinded by the American talent coming up here. They think the reason why the CFL is not growing is because football is just not that popular in Canada, which is true. Football is not that popular compared to hockey in Canada, but I mean, if these American athletes are really putting on, and they do put on a show, you know what I'm saying? If these American athletes who are putting on a show on television for the people in Canada watch, like you would think you would get more higher ratings and growth in your league CFL, and you're getting very minimal growth. So something is obviously not working. You got to make some changes. But the CFL, because they're blinded by the American talent, they're putting on a show. If I was commissioner and I talked to the committee, they would tell me, Ivan, that's not the reason why the league's growing. The league is not growing because the fans in Canada are not resonating with Canadian football that much compared to hockey. That's what they would tell me. And I will say, I think you're wrong. There is a market for there is a bigger market for Canadian football, but because you're promoting American talent in a Canadian football league in Canada, that's the reason why your brand's not growing, because you're promoting the CFL mainly with American talent in Canada, and that's how you think you're going to grow the league. I think the better way to grow the league is to grow the CFL with a Canadian talent. We can't do that. It's too risky, man. The quality will dip a little bit. Yeah, you guys underestimate the Canadian talent, and you treat us Canadian football players like shit in our own fucking country. Like, these American guys are not even Canadian guys. They're from the States, and they never wanted to be in the CFL to begin with. Their dream was to make the NFL. Yeah, right. We have to give them an opportunity to play football. They can play in the Arena Football League, guys. There's the Arena Football League. There's like 3 minor leagues in the States. They can play the Arena Football League, XFL, and there's also another league too. They can play there, guys. Like, we have our CFL, they have their NFL, and they have their other minor leagues. They have in the States. Obviously. And that's why, I don't mean to be an asshole, that's why there's a lot of people in Canada and even the States, they see your CFL, even though the CFL is not a minor league, it's its own league in Canada. They kind of see it as a minor league because all the star players are all NFL rejects from a different country. Like, hence why they see your CFL as a bit of a minor league, obviously. Whereas if you get rid of the American guys and you have the best players that play in Canada, no one will now see the CFL as even though the CFL is not a minor league, no one will now see the CFL as a bit of a minor league, because it actually is the best talent in Canada playing football. Obviously, because even fans in Canada kind of see the CFL as a minor league, because they know all the all-star, even though these American players are all-star players, they're all NFL rejects from a different country. They're all NFL rejects from the States. And there's very few Canadian stars. Hence why people see your CFL as a bit, it's not a minor league, but they kind of see it as a minor league because all your star players are all NFL rejects, obviously, from the States, right? Oh, yeah. Obviously. All you have to ask, do a lot of Canadian fans see the CFL as a minor league? No, they know it's a pro league, obviously. It's its own pro league in Canada, but because all the star players are all these NFL rejects from your NFL, they kind of see it as a minor league in a way. They can't really take the CFL seriously because they draft all these players, best players in Canada. They don't get their opportunity to shine, and they just bring up all these American guys who no one really cares about and who no one really knows that much about, and they give them their time to shine. When no one in Canada really cares about these guys, CFL. We know Ivan, they care. Yeah, they care about them when they become CFL stars, but they can't resonate with these guys, CFL. They don't even know who these guys are. They're American. Yeah, man. From a different country. And don't forget, they have their Canadian bias. Obviously. Yeah. So if the NFL promoted the majority of the talent with Canadian players in America, CFL, would the American players resonate with those Canadian players? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't really care that much about them. Yeah, the Americans also have a bias towards the Canadian players. No one in America will really care about these Canadian guys because they're what? They're not American. They're not American. They're Canadian. They have their bias, and people in the States won't really care about these Canadian guys. But you have the same situation here. No one in Canada really cares about these American guys, CFL. That's why you got to get rid of them. But they're never going to do that in the CFL because they're blinded by the American talent, and they're scared if they get rid of the American players, the quality will dip, obviously, but the value will go up, even though the quality will dip by a little bit. Because the CFL, they underestimate the Canadian talent, obviously. I told you the story about Anthony Coombs. Anthony Coombs he played football, running back at the University of Manitoba up here in Canada, obviously. This is years ago, like 2010, 11, 12. He was an amazing running back. He did very well at the combine. He ran a 4.5 at the combine, 4.5 something at the combine as a running back. Very, very fast. Very, very athletic, obviously. And the Toronto Argonauts drafted him in the first round back in 2014. I remember that. I remember I saw the preseason game. They brought this NCAA running back, or this running back who got cut from the NFL. And then he went up against Anthony Coombs, and I saw both of them play on the field. I did not see any difference, man. Like, I didn't really see a difference in quality. Honestly. Yeah, Ivan, like, there's not that much of a difference between the Canadian players and the American players. But the American players, in most cases, have a little more of the edge. Yes, they do. They're a little bit more athletic. Yes, they are guys. But, like, these American guys who come here are not that valuable to the league up here, man. Like, no one really cares about these guys. You just bring all these guys from the States to shine up here. They may put on a show, but people in Canada are clues. They don't know anything about these guys. They're just guys who come up here from the States who didn't get their NFL opportunity, and they put on a show. The fans love them when they become CFL stars, but they can't resonate with them because they don't even know where these guys came from. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Don't get me wrong, when they become CFL stars, the fans know their names and everything, but like they don't know anything about these guys because they're from a different country. Like, they can't resonate with them. They're American. They also have their bias, obviously, their Canadian bias. They don't know anything about these guys. I should say, okay, yeah. They don't know anything about these guys, I'm saying. Yeah. All the NFL players, Ivan, like, does the CFL really do the CFL does their very best to promote the all-star American talent in the CFL on the TSN promo, which is nationwide, by the way, CFL. A lot of eyes in Canada are seeing this, and yet you're not seeing any growth because no one really cares about these guys. That's how you know no one really cares about these guys. Can Bo Levi Mitchell beat Zach Caleros? Can this, you know what I'm saying, American running back, you know what I'm saying, beat this person? They're promoting the heck out of all these guys, and yet, yeah, we know these guys are CFL stars. We respect them and everything because they're killing the league, but because they're American, I can't resonate with them. I don't know anything about these guys. I don't really care about these guys. Yeah, and I had that same response too. Yeah, it's cool when they talk about Bo Levi Mitchell and Zach Caleros and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bo Levi Mitchell is leading. Zach Caleros is leading the league in yards and everything. Cool. They're CFL stars, but because they're American, I can't resonate with them. I don't know anything about them. Even then, I don't really care. I don't really care, man. That's the truth. As a Canadian, I don't really care, man. You guys, I'm saying? Yeah. Whereas when they talk about the Canadian player, which is very rare, I care a lot more. But I told you, because there's very few Canadian stars in the CFL, and all the star Canadian players are the linemen, there's barely any skilled Canadian positions in the CFL. Star Canadian skill positions, players playing in the CFL. And you get maybe one or two people they talk about, and all the focus is on the American players in the Canadian Football League. CFL thinks that's how they want to grow. Yeah, even like, we want to promote the American talent because they put on a show. Yeah, but guys, you've been doing that for years and your league's not growing. So you got to find ways to make some changes, man. Yeah. One of these days, I'm going to show you the Herb Brooks. One of these days, I'm going to show you the Herb Brooks video when he talked to the Olympic Committee. He's like, yeah, all-star teams fail because they rely, because the Soviets beat the Angel All-Stars. He's like, all-star teams fail because they rely heavily on the individual talent. He's like, I want the best college players, whatever it is, in USA. I want better conditioning, better training. And they laughed him off as crazy, and he pulled it off. I will tell CFL, man, look, man, you know what I'm saying? Your CFL league is failing because you're biased and you're relying heavily on the American talent, and you want to promote the Canadian football brand with American talent. I think you need to get rid of them and promote the brand with the Canadian talent and have better conditioning and training, like Herb Brooks said, for the best college alleys, and you guys can pull this off. This will be a better league. It'll never be the NFL, as the best Canadian players are not as good as the best American athletes in the NFL. But this league, guys, can grow to a $400, $500 million a year business in a good 10, 15 years if we do this. In a good 10 years if we do this, man. And they'll lock me off. You're crazy. No, guys, I know I'm doing it, man. Make this change and this league can grow. Promote the Canadian talent. This league can grow. But the CFL would say no, that's too risky. You can't do that. Okay, if you don't want to get rid of the American talent, you want to keep all these American guys no one in Canada really cares about. Like, what's your strategy to promote these guys? You've been trying your best to promote these guys for years. What's your strategy? Oh, I don't know, Ivan. No, seriously, guys, man. What is your strategy in promoting the American players in the CFL who no one really cares about in Canada? What's your strategy for these guys? As you've been trying to promote these guys, and yet no one cares about them that much, man. No one in Canada cares about these guys. There they go. Oh, I'm saying, yeah. 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 Because the CFL committee will tell me, Ivan, if you get rid of the American talent, the quality of okay, have better conditioning and training for them. That way you get a bit of a better performance. And guys, be honest, if you get rid of the American talent in the CFL, will it really make that much of a difference in quality? It doesn't really make that much of a difference, but the American players are a little bit more athletic, Ivan. You know what I'm saying? Yes, they are, but if you put these Canadian players through better conditioning and training, like Herb Brooks said for Team USA, you're going to get a better performance out of them on the field. It's still quality football. Yes, it is quality football, Ivan, but the Canadians don't put on the show the way the Americans put on the show. I know, guys, but they've been putting on the show in your league for years. All these amazing American players who come here, and yet the league's not growing. Because I believe the Canadian football fans in Canada are not resonating with these American guys, man. They don't really care about them that much because they don't even know where they even came from. They don't even know who these guys even are. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you see Mike Raleigh, Zach Caleros, and Bolab Mitchell, they make amazing plays. The fans warn everything, but they don't resonate with these guys. They don't even know where these guys even came from. Like, they're just guys who come up here from a different country who happen to kill the league up here. They put on a show, but because they're American and the fans up here are Canadian, they don't resonate with these guys. You guys from Sarah? And that's why the Canadian football fans, they don't really care that much about these guys because they're American. They don't know where these guys even came from. And the CFL even does their very best to promote the heck out of all these guys with documentaries about how they got cut from the NFL or they're NCAA unsigned, undrafted free agents. And it's an amazing story. I saw a few of the documentaries, obviously. It's an amazing story, obviously. I'm like, man, that's cool, man. This guy got his CFL opportunities the CFLs are. Because he's American, I didn't see him in college. I don't know anything about him. I don't really care. Like, I don't really care about these guys, man. No one cares about these guys, CFL. They don't care about these American guys. There they go. Yeah, because they can't relate to them. They're from a different country, and they're clueless about their football history. They don't know anything about these guys, man. They don't know anything about these guys. There they go. Yeah. I'm gonna get my sandwich, guys. I made sandwich. I have my Denny's food. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's cold, man. I know. The CFL has a bias. Oh yeah, it's so bad in the CFL. I talked about it yesterday. The CFL even has a bias towards the awards. All you NFL athletes, the bias up here in Canada is so bad with the American players who no one really cares about that the CFL even has a bias with the awards. Yeah. If a star Canadian defensive player has the most tackles in the league, which happened quite a few times in the CFL, and they lead the league in tackles and they outperform the American star players, that Canadian player won't get the best defensive player award. No, that player gets the most outstanding Canadian award. Yeah, but Ivan, they still get to win that award. Yeah, but like, it's almost like you're deliberately CFL trying to like be what? Be like biased and downgrade the Canadian talent, whereby you have to give them a separate like outside Canadian award. Like, why do you got to be like that? Like, if the Canadian player outperforms all the All-Star American players who come here, why are you giving that Canadian player the outstanding Canadian award when they should be winning the most the defensive player award? Ivan, because that Canadian player is not as talented as the American guys. Ivan, I beg to differ. If that Canadian player beat out the best American All Stars in the season, that Canadian player should have the opportunity to win best defensive players too. Ivan, we're biased, man. Like, we have to respect these guys. These guys are the guys who put on a show. They're the ones who get those awards. Well, like, the best Canadian player gets the most assigned Canadian. Well, yeah, because you guys are biased and you're blinded by the American talent. That's fucking cold, man. And that's why a lot of CFL draft picks who get drafted in your league CFL, they quit and they retire. They can't take your bullshit. Because you even have a bias with the awards. It's ridiculous. I mean, and that's cold, I know. They even have a bias with the awards in CFL. It's crazy. Even if a defensive Canadian player leads the league in tackles and outperforms the American guys, they're not going to win best. They don't have an opportunity to win best defensive player. No, they're not going to win that award. They get the opportunity to win the most outstanding Canadian award. They get the Canadian separate award. And then the another amazing defensive player in the CFL, they get MVP, defensive MVP for the league. Like, how's that fair, guys? Ivan, they still get to win the most outstanding Canadian award. Yeah, but you're biased CFL towards the American talent. Ivan, we have to respect these guys. They're amazing talent. They're the ones who are supposedly keeping the league afloat and putting on a show, even though your league has not been growing. I'm like, guys, even though they're amazing talent and you respect and you have so much respect for them, they're NFL rejects. People in Canada don't really care that much about these guys, man. Get rid of them. No one cares about these guys. Oh, Anderson, yeah. No one cares about these guys, so they go. Why do the American guys really put on a show? Oh yeah, they do. Obviously, the American guys who come here from the States are very, very amazing players. Even though they're NFL rejects, they're amazing talent, and they put on a show. And they really do. Like the American guys who come here are amazing players. Obviously, they're not as good as the best players in the NFL, but they're almost as good. They're amazing fucking players. But because they're American, the fans don't really resonate with them. No one really cares about them. They may put on a show, guys, but your league has not been growing, right? Your league has not been growing. There you go. It's not been growing, yeah. But they do put on a show, though. Obviously. But I told you, the CFL's trying their very best to promote the heck out of all these all-star receivers. This American receiver is the best receiver in the league, and yet no one cares because they don't know anything about these guys, man. They don't even know where these guys came from the States. They're clueless, the Canadian fans. And that's how you want to grow the league, CFL? By promoting unknowns from a different country. NFL rejects who the fans don't really care that much about. That's how you want to grow the league, the Canadian Football League, CFL? Ivan, that's the best way to grow the league. Okay, well, how come you're seeing very limited growth in your league? Ivan, it's not because of that, man. I believe, because the CFL believes it's because of the American players. The CFL has grown because they're putting on a show, more of a show than the Canadian players. And yet the league is seeing very, very minimal growth. Because I believe the fans don't resonate with these American guys because they're American. They don't even know where these guys came from. They don't really care that much about these guys. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I don't really care that much about the CFL stars because they're American. and I don't know anything about these guys, man. I'm clueless. Whereas a lot of the Canadian players, I know quite a bit about a lot of those guys because I know they got drafted. I saw some of them in CIS. I'm more familiar with them, and I also have my Canadian bias, or that's why they're more valuable than Canadian players. Was the American players, people in Canada, CFL are clueless about these guys. They don't know anything about these guys. They don't know anything about these guys. When they become CFL stars, a lot of the fans recognize their names and everything, and they're seeing this is a star quarterback. Because they're American, they don't resonate with them, and they don't know where these guys came from. They're just guys who come up here from a different country who happen to kill the league. They're clueless about them. They don't really care that much about these guys. That's what I'm saying. And that's the reason why I believe your league's not growing, because the fans in Canada are not resonating with the American talent, CFL, in your league. They're not resonating with the American talent. But the CFL, because they're blind by the American talent, they're never gonna do that. I'm sorry, we can't do that. It's too risky. Put the Canadians through better conditioning and off-season training. Then we get a performance from them, like Herb Brooks told the committee. And promote the Canadian talent, the league will grow. I know I'm doing. But they'll laugh me off as crazy. Look, man, the committee laughed Herb Brooks off as crazy, and he pulled it off. This is the CFL, the Canadian Football League. The best way to grow this league, guys, is promoting the Canadian talent, not the American talent. The American talent may be more talented. The Americans may be more talented than the CFL and the Canadian players, but they're not as valuable up here. They're not. We know that, Ivan, but they're not as talented, Ivan. Put them through rigorous, better conditioning and training, and you'll get a better performance from them. I know I'm doing. Like Herb Brooks told the Olympic Committee, right? He trained this shit. Herb Brooks trained this shit out of the college athletes, and they became amazing, better hockey players, and they won the gold medal in the Olympics, and they even beat the Soviets. I want to do what Herb Brooks did. I want these best Canadian athletes to be better on the field. Even though I think they're already good enough to put on a show. Yeah, they're good enough to put on a show, but they don't put on a show the way the American players put on a show because they're a bit more talented. Yeah, that's why you're biased, CFL, by the American talent. You have your bias, obviously. I'm sorry? Go hands in, yeah. Why will the CFL ever be the NHL or the NFL? No, because football there's not that big of a market for football in Canada, obviously. But the CFL could grow, guys, to a $400, $500 million business if you make this change. In a good 15 years, this can grow to a $400, $500 million business if you do everything right. If you promote the Canadian talent, your league can double in revenue. Right now, you guys are peaking at $250 million a year in revenue. This can double to $500 million a year in revenue, guys. And you're going to get bigger TV deals. If your league, guys, doubles to $500 million in revenue, you guys might get maybe your $100 million a year, maybe $80 million a year from TSN. And I'm saying you can now increase your salary cap to $8 million, and these star Canadian athletes will make more money. And you're going to get bigger endorsement deals as the Canadian brands in Canada. Obviously, will be more willing to invest in the Canadian talent because they're more valuable here than the American talent who no one in Canada can resonate with. They don't really know that much about. You got some Sarah. That's why it's very tough for a lot of the. It's very tough for the Canadian brands to endorse these CFL star players in CFL because they're American from a different country, and the fans in Canada are clueless about them. Obviously, they know about them. The Canadian football fans, they know that they're CFL stars. They know their names and everything, but they can't resonate with them because they're American players who just come up here from a different country who happen to kill the league. Obviously, yeah, they're clueless about these guys. They don't know anything about these guys, man. Oh, Hamson, yeah, obviously. So Ivan, the league does have some players speak. Yeah, they do. The CFL does have players. As my oldest stepbrother, when he was in junior high, he had players from the Montreal Alouettes come to his junior high, and they played basketball and everything in the school. They spoke and everything. He said, you know what I'm saying? It's cool, and the fans know they're CFL star athletes, but they don't really resonate with these guys because they're American. They don't really know much history about them, what calls they play. They're clueless about these guys because they're from a different country. They can't really, like, they're CFL stars and they love them and everything, but because they're American, they don't really care that much about them. They can't resonate with them. You guys what I'm saying? They don't really care that much about these guys because they're from a different country. They can't resonate with these guys. Whereas the Canadian players they can resonate with more. But I told you there's very few Canadian CFL stars. Most of the CFL stars are the linemen, man. Obviously, hence most of the star players you speak at the universities and schools and everything are all these American guys, right? Who no one really cares that much about. They don't really resonate that much, like, or that well with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's how you want to promote the league in Canada, CFL? Ivan, that's the best way. Well, how come you have no growth in your league? You have no growth in your league either. You know, I'm saying, yeah. Yeah. Why do the Canadian players, like draft picks in the CFL, go speaking too? Yeah, they do, but most of the guys, the Canadian guys who go speaking, the Canadian players who go speaking are not starting in the league. They're all like special teams players. So even though the fans know this guy's a CFL draft pick, that he speaks at school, yeah, he may be a CFL draft pick, but this Canadian player is not a star in the CFL. He's a special teams player. Whereas all the American guys get their time to shine and speak up here. No one really cares that much about. Like, I don't get it. Ugh. Yeah. I'm alright moving forward, Ivan. That's true. I do, geez, I know. I'll blow your mind over the jeans. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, so what's the best way to promote the Canadian talent? You gotta market them on TSN, have the panel talk about them, promote the change, do a press conference about the change. It doesn't hurt to do a few nationwide commercials for the Canadian players, mainly the quarterbacks. Like John Cornish did a nationwide commercial, do a nationwide commercial for the quarterbacks. Witness the best Canadian player, the best players in Canada compete in the CFL. CFL's now Canada, you promote it. And for the CFL awards, have red carpet events. Even though the red carpet events in the CFL are not that popular compared to like the big four leagues, that's how you grow the league. Obviously, I know the red carpet event will not be that popular, but do a red card event in the CFL awards. That way you promote the brand, and the fans are gonna love the Canadian star players way more than these American guys who don't even care that much about, and you'll grow the league. I know what I'm doing. Some Sarah. Does the CFL do red carpets? Yeah, they do. I remember one time I saw a picture of the carpet, and you know what I'm saying. But you know, it's how people in Canada don't really care about these guys, man, because they may be, I don't know, CFL stars. The fans may ask for autographs and all that, but they know these guys are American from a different country. They can't resonate with them. And I don't mean to be an asshole. All these Canadian fans know all these star players are all NFL rejects. That's why they don't really care about these guys that much. I'm saying, yeah, they don't really care about these guys. Yeah, man, they don't care about these guys that much. I'm saying, yeah, they don't really care about these guys. There you go. No, seriously, like when you saw Anthony Coombs compete with, I don't know, the running back from the NFL who got caught from the NFL, you didn't see it there. I did not see. There's not that much of it. I don't see that much of a difference, man. Even though I don't see that much of a difference, Ivan, we have a bias. We need to give these American guys their time to shine here. Who no one really cares about, guys. No one in Canada really cares about these American guys who come up here, man. Get rid of them and give the best Canadian players their time to shine up here, and your league will grow. And you promote them, the league will grow. See if we'll never do that though. It's too risky. We can't do that. It's too risky. Yeah. Greater risk, higher reward, guys. There you go. Ivan, do you believe it's risky doing that? It's only risky if you don't promote it well. You have to promote it very well, guys. If you promote it very well, people in Canada are aware of the change CFL's on Canada, and you promote the heck. You got to promote the heck out of them on TSN with the promos, and do a few nationwide commercials for the I don't know, the quarterbacks. And a lot of people and fans, a lot of fans in Canada will know, and you can double your viewership to a million two people in Canada tuning into your games. You'll make more money. You'll get bigger television deals from TSN. Because TSN CFL is not giving you any more money because your league's not growing. Obviously. And even though the CFL is sponsored by a lot of big name brands, you know what I'm saying? If you do this CFL, you're going to get much more sponsors from the Canadian brands for your league. And a lot of companies in Canada will be willing to endorse these American players. More. As Nathan Rourke has a marketing deal with the CFL. Because he's Canadian, obviously. Yeah, we got to market this Canadian guy. That's how you know CFL. Yeah, we know they're more valuable. They're not as talented as American guys. That's why you got to get rid of them. Get rid of the American guys. We don't have to worry about that. Your bias of the American talent. Get rid of them. There they go. Don't use them. Yeah. Yeah, does Zach Caleros and Bo Levi Mitchell have a marketing deal in the CFL? They don't have, yeah, but Nathan Rourke has a marketing deal with the CFL because they know he's very valuable because he's a starting Canadian quarterback. And that's how you know CFL. The Canadian players are more valuable up here to the fans than these American guys who no one even really knows that much about. They put on a show, obviously. They're amazing talent, obviously. They really do. The American players who come up here, they're amazing players. And I respect them. They're CFL stars. They're amazing fucking players. They put on a show, man. I've seen the main CFL games. They put on a show. And that's why the CFL, they're never going to, we can't do that. It's because the American players, the league is supposedly surviving because it's quality, entertaining football. Yes, it is quality, entertaining football. Obviously, but you notice even though it's quality entertaining football, these guys are putting on a show. People in Canada don't care. They don't care. No one's tuning in because they can't resonate with these American guys. They don't care CFL about these guys, man, because they're from a different country and they don't even know anything about these guys. When they come up here, they're just guys who come out of nowhere from a different country and happen to put on a show up here. And you promote the heck out of them, and then when they become CFL stars, the fans recognize them and everything. A lot of the fans recognize them and everything, but you notice how no one in Canada really cares. Even I don't really care when they talk about Bo Levi Mitchell's leading the league in yards, Zach Caleros is leading the league in yards. You know what I'm saying? They talk about all these guys. It's cool. Yeah, I wonder who's going to win the game because they're American. I don't know anything about them. I can't resonate with them. I'm Canadian. I don't really care. It's. I don't really have that much hyper buzz about these guys because they're American from a different country. I don't know anything about them. I don't really resonate with them because they're American and I have my Canadian bias. I don't really care that much. You guys see what I'm saying? And that's why I believe the CFL is not growing. That's what I'll tell the committee, and the committee's all blown away. Yeah, that is true, but the quality will dip, Ivan. We can't take that risk. Look, man, if you promote the heck out of the best Canadian athletes, and do a few commercials, a lot of people in Canada will know about the change and everything. You'll get more people watching and tuning in. Obviously. You guys are only averaging 500,000 views a game. This can double to 1 million people watching if you make this change in a couple years. In maybe 2 years, your ratings can go up. Maybe in the first season, your ratings can go up to 800,000, 900,000 people watching. Or more people will be tuning in. You guys can grow your viewership from 500,000 to maybe 2.53 million people in Canada watching your games. You just gotta market these Canadian guys. Yeah, but Ivan, if the quality dips a little bit, the football it will not be as entertaining football, and we're scared less fans are gonna tune in. Yeah, because you guys are blinded by your bias of the American talent. And you also underestimate the Canadian talent. Yeah. You guys underestimate the value of the Canadian talent, obviously. Yeah. The CFL knows that Canadian players are valuable. They're more valuable than the American players. but they don't believe their talent is as valuable. They believe the Americans have more valuable talent, but the Canadians are more valuable in terms of like yeah. The CFL knows the Canadians have better marketing value than the American players, but their talent value is not as high. Whereas the American guys do not have as much marketing value, but they have higher value in terms of talent. So the CFL obviously believes that talent is higher quality talent will grow the league instead of higher quality marketing value. Obviously, yeah, the Canadians have better marketing value up here in Canada, Ivan, but they're not as talented. The American players are a little bit more talented. They have the edge. I think we need to promote the American guys because they're the ones who want to show and they're more talented. But what you guys are blinded by, even though they're a bit more talented, they're American guys. People in Canada are not resonating with these guys. Nobody cares about them. Like some Sarah? Oh, hey, yeah. Yeah, they really do their best to promote these guys. Yeah, they have them speak and everything. They try to promote these guys, but you notice even though the fans love them and everything, they're CFL stars. They can't resonate with these guys, man, because they're American from a different country, right? Yeah. If all the star quarterbacks in the NFL were Canadian players and the NFL did their very best to market those guys, the league revenue would probably go down because people in America don't care about the Canadian guys because they have their American bias. You have the same thing up here too. Like people can't only care about these American guys, man. They care more about the Canadian guys because there's barely any Canadian stars in the CFL who don't get their opportunity. You don't really, yeah. Obviously. So they try, yeah. Bo Levi Mitchell hit, I don't know, 35,000 passing yards. This receiver has, I don't know, 8,000, 9,000 receiving yards in the league. All these star American guys. Yes, it's cool, it's an achievement, and I respect them. They're CFL stars. Because they're American, I don't resonate with them. I don't know anything about these guys. I don't know anything about their history, their football history. I don't really care. I don't really care. There you go. I don't really care. There you go. I'm sorry. Yeah. Because these American guys who come here, they're unknowns. Like no one even knows where these guys even came from, man. They just happen to come up here from a different country and kill the league. They put on a show, but they're unknowns. Like people, the Canadian fans, they don't know anything. They don't have a clue about these guys, man. They don't. They're just guys who come from a different country who happen to kill the league. But like the fans don't really resonate with them. They don't know anything about these guys. CFL. They don't know anything about these guys. Samsara? Yeah. Yeah, but Ivan, they're talented. They put on a show. I know they do, but they've been putting on a show for years on television, CFL, and you're seeing no growth in your league. Because you think the best way to promote the Canadian Football League in Canada is by promoting it with the American talent. Obviously, and don't forget, even though you're promoting the CFL with the American talent, and they're very talented, the American talent in CFL is not the best talent in America, and that's why a lot of the Canadian fans they see your CFL as a bit of a minor league, because you have all these NFL rejects coming up here, putting on a show. Obviously, instead of the best Canadian players in Canada putting on a show in the CFL. And that's what you guys think is the best way to grow the league. By having the star American players be guys from the States who are NFL rejects. Who are not that valuable up here. Well, even they're valuable. Yeah, they're valuable in terms of talent. And they put on the show, but they're not that valuable in terms of marketing value. In terms of marketing value, guys, they're not that valuable up here. They're valuable in talent, obviously. because they're amazing athletes, obviously. But what? Like, even though they're amazing athletes and they're pretty valuable in talent, like the fans in Canada know they're not the best talent in the states. They're all the Americans NFL. They're the NFL rejects, man. Yeah. So you want to grow the league with the CF. You want to promote the CFL brand with guys from the states who are NFL rejects. So you want to promote the CFL Canadian brand with NFL rejects from the states. That's how you want to grow the Canadian Football League CFL. Like, really? Yeah, man. That's why the Canadian fans, they don't really take your league seriously. They don't resonate with these guys. They don't really care about them and what. And a lot of the Canadian fans in Canada, they see your CFL, even though it's not a minor league, they see it kind of as a minor league because even though these American, don't hate me guys, even though these American players are killing the league and everything up here, they're not the best players in the States. They're NFL rejects. Obviously. You guys some saying? But Ivan, they're a bit more talented than the best Canadian players. Yes, even though they may be a bit more talented than the best Canadian players in CFL, the players playing in Canada who are drafted are actually the best players playing in Canada, man. These American guys can't say that. They're NFL rejects. The players, yeah, we know that, Ivan. The players playing in the CFL, the Canadian players are the greatest players in Canada. But the American players come out here a little bit better. Yeah, but they may be a bit better, guys, but they're not as valuable up here, guys. And no one really cares about these guys. Oh, Hameson, yeah, no one really cares about these guys. There they go. Yeah. Why are the Canadian players more valuable than the American players? Because the CFL knows there's a bigger market for the Canadian players because they're Canadian. The fans resonate with them more. They know that, obviously, and they know even though the American players who come up here have the edge over the Canadian players, the Canadian players who play up here are actually the greatest players, the greatest college players in Canada who are drafted in the CFL. The players playing in the CFL are actually the best players in Canada, right? The best of the best. Whereas even though these American guys who come up here have amazing talent, they have a little bit of edge in talent in most cases. They're not what? They're not the best players in America. The best players in America are the NFL players, obviously. They're the rejects from the NFL. Players who got cut or are unsigned, undrafted free agents. The NCAA, those are the American guys who come up here. And that's how you want to grow the league, CFL, with those guys from the States. NFL rejects. I don't mean to be an asshole, guys. I don't mean to put you Americans CFL out. Yeah, you're fucking dick, Ivan. Well, you Americans who come up here in the CFL put us Canadian players down. So you think we're shitty players until you play up here, and a lot of you guys get cut, obviously. Yeah. Some Sarah. Ivan, all you NFL players are wondering, Ivan, are the star American players much better than the Canadian players? No, they're not much. There's not really much of a difference, but they're a bit more athletic. They have the edge. They have a bit of the edge and talent, but they're not that much better than the best Canadian players. You know what I'm saying? They're a little bit better. They have the edge they're a bit more athletic in most cases than Canadian guys, but there are some Canadian There are some Canadian draft picks who are drafting the CFL. If they had their opportunity to shine, they'd be just as good as these American All-Stars, if not even better. As I believe Anthony Coombs, if he had his opportunity to shine in CFL, he probably would have been an amazing CFL Canadian running back, but he didn't get his opportunity because they're biased towards the American talent. I saw that preseason game. You know what I'm saying? And Anthony Coombs was competing with an American guy who I think got cut from the NFL. Obviously, he got cut from the NFL, and I did not see a difference, man. I didn't see that much of a difference. Yeah. Yeah, there's not that much of a difference, Ivan, but like, man, they're American, Ivan. They have a bit of the edge, Ivan, over you. Yeah, because you guys are biased by the American talent, obviously. Yeah. I know that are the best Canadian players in Canada talented? Yes, they are. They're very, very talented. But the American players just have a little bit of the edge over them because they had better training NCAA. They're a bit more athletic in most cases than the Canadian players. That's why the CFL starts them. They put on a bit more of a show. That's why the CFL starts all the American guys over the Canadian guys, right? Yeah. Yeah. Brad Sinopoli was one of the best receivers in the league. I think 1 year he led the league in receiving yards, man. If I remember. Yeah, I think 1 year in the CFL he led the league and he surpassed even all the American All-Star running backs. He beat him out, man. I think in touchdowns and even yards, and he didn't even get the other. I mean, he got outstanding Canadian because the CFL's bias. It's ridiculous, man. All the American players like, nah, it's cold, man. Yeah, they have a bias. So yeah, that it doesn't matter how good you are as a Canadian player up here. Even if you surpass the American stars, you're not going to get the other MVP awards. You get your own separate outstanding Canadian. See, was like Ivan, like they got to win that award. Yeah, but like you guys are so biased that you even have a bias towards the awards, towards the Canadian and American players. It's ridiculous, man. But you have to like separate the awards. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's bad. It's very bad up here, and that's why a lot of your draft pick CFL they retire and they quit, man, because they can't take your bullshit, man. You even have a bias in your awards, obviously. Yeah. How many awards do they have in the CFL? I don't know. They have quite a bit. I know they have MOP. MOP is the MVP award, most outstanding player, but that award usually goes to the star American quarterbacks. That award, just like in the NFL, most of the MVP awards goes to the quarterbacks. That's how it works in the NFL awards. The CFL awards, most of the those awards go to the star American quarterbacks. The CFL awards, right? Up here in Canada, yeah, that's how it works, right? Yeah. Well, Ivan, the reason why we do that, you know what I'm saying? The reason why we have our outstanding Canadian and outstanding um, the other awards is because we gotta respect the American guys. They're the ones who are keeping this league afloat. I disagree, but they're the ones who are keeping this league afloat. They're the ones who put on the show. We gotta respect these guys, and you know what I'm saying? I'm like, guys, they may be more talented, but people up here in Canada don't care about these guys. You know what I'm saying? Don't hate them. They don't really care that much about these guys, man. Just get rid of them. Let it go. Give me a second. I was gonna go upstairs and get my food. I'll be back inside. Who guys want the show? guys. I'm supposed to get my food. I'm eating my egg sandwich. Why? This is what you would tell the CFL committee. Yeah, if I was CFL commissioner, I would pitch this to the committee, like Herb Brooks pitched. One of these days, I'm going to show you that video when Herb Brooks talked to the Olympic committee, and they laughed him off as crazy. I don't want any NHL athletes. I want the best college players in Canada. They laughed him off. We just need better conditioning, better training. He pulled it off. They laughed him off, and then they won the whole gold medal round, right? Yeah, I believe CFL, if you make this change, if I was commissioner, this league can grow to a $450, $500 million revenue business in a good maybe 10, 12 years. In 10 years, you can grow it. You can double your revenue in 10 years, man. No. Never gonna happen, though. Never gonna happen. Yeah. Never gonna happen. Yeah. Why? We can't do that. We have to give the American players in the States an opportunity to play pro football. My God, the NFL doesn't give Canadian players an opportunity to play there too. Why are you giving all these American guys an opportunity to play football over here in Canada, in the CFL, when you should be giving the best Canadian players an opportunity to play? Well, why, when we do give them an opportunity to play, yeah, you give them very limited opportunity. They have to play special teams, and you have a few starters here and there, but most of your star players are all these American guys from the States who no one in Canada really cares about, man. There you go. The CFL is all the Canadian players have, guys. It's like, this is our country. The CFL is all these Canadian players have up here. Whereas the Americans have their NFL, they also have the minor leagues. They have Arena Football League, XFL. These guys who don't make the CFL, they can play there. There they go. Guys in states who didn't make the NFL can play in the Arena Football League or the XFL, right? Play there. There you go. Yeah. Because even if you don't make the NFL and you play, if you can have a good career in the Arena Football League, that's still pretty good, right? Like, it's the Arena Football League is not the CFL, but it's still pretty good, right? Yeah. Yeah. Guys, the NFL gives very, very limited opportunity for Canadian players. And they also have a bias towards the Canadian players too, right? As the NFL, you have a similar situation up there. It doesn't matter how good you do as a Canadian player, you're not going to get your opportunity to. It's very rare for you to get your opportunity to start. As the NFL, they have a bias towards the American players too, obviously, because they're biased towards Canadian players. As Nathan Rook did very well, all you NFL athletes might have recognized him. Like, he played for the Ravens in the preseason. He scored a touchdown. He broke a tackle, scored a touchdown. He did better than the other QB in that preseason game, and that other QB got second string, and he was put in the practice roster because the NFL has a bias towards they have a bias towards Canadian players, right? You NFL athletes might have recognized some of you NFL quarterbacks playing in the CFL might have recognized Nathan Rook. He got signed by the Ravens. He played in the preseason game. He scored a touchdown in the NFL, and he broke a defense. Yeah, he broke a defensive tackle and scored a touchdown. He did better than the other American guy, and yet he got put in the practice roster, and the other guy was like second string or something like that. And that's how you know CFL, even the NFL has a bias towards Canadian players. So the NFL limits the opportunity for the Canadian players. You know what I'm saying? And then you guys give a bigger opportunity for the American players in the States who did not make the NFL, who not get, you know what I'm saying? And you limit the opportunity for the Canadian players to play for Pro Football up here in Canada. Like, how's that fair, guys? It's not fair. There you go. Oh, you NFL guys, that's cold, man. No, yeah, like NFL, I'm talking to you, man. Even though like the American players have a bit of the edge over the Canadian players, even if a Canadian player does good in your preseason or something like that, you have a bias whereby you put them in the practice roster. As Nathan Rourke actually did very well in that preseason. He scored a touchdown and he broke a tackle from a D line. You know what I'm saying? He scored a touchdown. And some of you NFL players might have recognized him obviously when he played in the NFL, Nathan Rourke, with the Ravens, and he got put in the practice roster. And the other guy who didn't do as good in the preseason, the other American guy, they put him out second, third string. Like, we don't like you Canadian guys. Yeah, you guys have a bias towards us Canadian players. You know it, NFL. Yeah, we do. We don't like you Canadian players. Yeah, you know it. Obviously, and up north, the CFL also has a bias towards us Canadian players too. It's ridiculous, man. So in both pro leagues, they don't respect Canadian players. I can understand the NFL not respecting the Canadian players because they have their American bias, obviously, and the Canadian players are not as good as the best American players, obviously, in the States. But you would think the CFO would at least give the Canadian stars an opportunity to shine here, but they have a bias towards the Canadian players too, and they just love all these American guys who come from the States who are NFL rejects who no one in Canada really cares about. Yeah, so the NFL limits the opportunity for the Canadian players to play there. There's only maybe, 7 Canadian players playing in the NFL who are not stars, by the way. They're all like playing special teams or sitting on the bench or having limited reps. Obviously, the only success story I know about a Canadian player was an O-lineman. I told you the story. There's an O-lineman who played for McGill University. He was such an amazing O-lineman. He had a pro day up here. And the CFL scouts loved him. He was supposed to be like a first overall pick in the CFL. The NFL loved him so much. Obviously, he was drafted in the 6th round. He played in the CIS. He was drafted in the 6th round in the NFL. And he was such an amazing O-line. He actually was starting in the NFL as a left tackle. And they offered him like a 5-year, like 45, 46 million deal. But he turned it down to be a doctor. That's the only like big success story I know. I know a few other stories of other CIS players who got drafted in the NFL like in the 7th round. I think like last year some D linemen in the CIS also got drafted in the NFL too, like in the 7th round. I told you even though these guys get drafted in the NFL, chances are they're not going to see light of day because the NFL has a bias towards the Canadian players too, obviously. Yeah, we don't like you Canadian guys. Yeah, you guys have a bias towards us. You give us very limited opportunity to play in the NFL. And the CFL also gives the Canadian players an opportunity to play up here when this is our league. It's not, these American guys are not even Canadian guys. Yeah. So in both leagues, the Canadian players have limited opportunity. And it's all about the American players having their opportunity. Yeah, even the reason why it's all about the American players in both leagues because they're more talented than you guys. Yeah, in the States, I can understand that. They're American, but in Canada, guys, these American guys are not that valuable here, man. No one in Canada cares about these guys, man. That's sincere. No one cares about these guys who come up here. They don't care. They're unknowns who just happen to come up here and kill the league, but like, no one resonates with them. No one knows who these guys even are. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one really cares about these guys. I'm saying, yeah. Yeah. The NFL knows, we have a bias towards you Canadian guys. We don't like you guys. Yeah, they don't like it. The NFL doesn't like us either. Yeah. As Nathan Rook outperformed the other American, he scored a touchdown in the drive, man. The fucking NFL. That's like he scored a fucking touchdown in the NFL, like the NFL, man. He's Canadian too. And I heard there's news about some people in the NFL like this QB's Canadian, and yeah, he did well, obviously, and then he gets put in the practice roster, and the other guy who didn't do as well gets like I don't know third string spot for the team. Like yeah, we're biased, man. We don't like you Canadian guys. Yeah, and I told you the story about Enoch Mwamba. Enoch Mwamba was the first overall pick in the CFL back in like 2011. He retired now. He's a sports anchor for CFL now, obviously. I remember when he got drafted too, and now he's a sports anchor. He retired. He had a 13-year career in the CFL. He had a pretty good career in the CFL, I'm saying. He was the first overall pick in the CFL. He was a starting Canadian linebacker in the CFL. He killed the league, did amazing in the league, and he got his NFL opportunity in the CFL, and I saw a bit of the game. Enoch Mwamba was the best linebacker on his team for that preseason game. He had like 11 tackles, man. He led his team, he led the game in tackles, and he was the best performing linebacker in that game against the American linebackers. And he's Canadian, and they put him on the practice roster, and the other guys got like their second, third string. Honestly, because the NFL also, we don't like you Canadian guys. Yeah, you guys have your bias towards Canadian players too. So why the fuck, CFL, are you giving all these American guys their opportunity to shine, but no one really cares about it, and you're limiting the opportunity of the Canadian players? When this is Canada, man. This is Canadian football. How's that fair, CFL? Ivan, you got a good point there, but like, man, we have to give these American guys the opportunity to shine here because they're just more talented, man. That's why we got to get rid of them, man. Yeah, get rid of those guys. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Was there any Canadian starting players in the NFL? The only guy in America from Canada who I know was starting was that O-lineman. There was another guy, his name I think was Luke Wilson. He was also a Canadian player. He got drafted in the NFL. He was actually starting in the league as a tight end or something like that. And that's it. Because the NFL gives very, very limited opportunities for Canadian players. Because they have a bias. Yeah. As Nathan Rook was a star QB in the NCAA Division 1A, man. Like 1A is the best. Because NCAA, they have three divisions, right? They have Division 1A, Division 1AA, and then they have Division 2, and they have Division 3. Nathan Rook was Division 1A. In the NCAA starting, he was Canadian and he started. I heard he did very well in the league. He didn't get his NFL opportunity, but he was drafted in the CFL though. But he did get his NFL opportunity, and then when he played in the CFL, he was so good. He started, he killed the league, and he got his NFL opportunity, and he did pretty good in the preseason, better than the other American guy, and they put him on the practice roster. And the other guy who didn't do as good, he, you know what I'm saying? That guy gets like, I don't know, third string spot. Like, how's that fair, NFL? Yeah, we don't like you Canadian guys, man. We don't like you guys. Yeah, the NFL's a bias towards the Canadian players. And Enoch Mwamba too, he led the preseason game in tackles, man. He had 11 tackles. Led his whole team in tackles that game, man. Yeah, man. Canadian, but because they're biased, they put him on the practice roster. Didn't even give him third string spot opportunity. Yeah, we don't like you Canadian guys in America. Yeah, well, then why the fuck should we have all you American guys, you rejects from the NFL, come up here and steal the spotlight from us Canadian players? How's that fair, CFL? Not fair. There you go. It's not fair. There they go. Yeah. I do a lot of CFL draft picks get NFL opportunities. The first round picks, yeah, like a lot of players, a lot of the first round picks in the CFL, a lot of them do get NFL opportunities, and a lot of them even are unsigned, undrafted free agents in the CFL. No, a little bit of them. They'll get maybe an NFL tryout, or they're unsigned, undrafted free agents. But even if they're unsigned, undrafted free agents, they're not going to get their opportunity, man. Because the Americans in the NFL have a bit of the edge. over the Canadian players, obviously. And don't forget, the NFL is also biased towards Canadian players too. They don't really like us Canadians. Yeah, we're biased. Yeah, they have their American bias, obviously. They're biased, obviously, right? They're biased. Yeah. But most Canadian players in Canada don't really they don't care about the NFL, man. Like their dreams to play up here, but they have limited opportunity because the CFL's biased. They don't give the Canadian players an opportunity to shine up here. It's ridiculous, man. Because they're biased, obviously. Yeah. That's cold, man. I know. All you ever had is that's cold, man. I'm saying, but I guarantee you, all the NFL athletes are wondering. But I don't get though, man. Like, even though like the players who get drafted in Canada are the best players in Canada, even though like the guys coming from the States are NFL rejects, they're a bit better than you guys. They deserve to start up there. They deserve, they deserve to be the stars. Yes, I know, but you guys don't get it. Even though they're a bit more talented than us, than the best Canadian players. In most cases, there are some of the best Canadian talent who get drafted who are even better than some of these American guys who come up here, but it's very rare. On average, the American guys have the edge. Obviously, yeah. I've what position before I talk about US though. I've what position like what position in the what position in what position are like most of the Americans and the Canadians kind of like equal in talent? O linemen. The best Canadian O linemen are just as good as all the best American O linemen who played in CFL. The best Canadian O linemen are just as good as the American guys. There's no difference, right? But the skill positions, usually the American players have a bit of the edge. But the O linemen, the best Canadian O linemen are just as good as the best American O linemen who come up here. I think the CFL will, yeah, Ivan. For the O linemen, for the non-skill position, like the Canadian guys are just as good. Yeah, they're just as good as the American guys in Canada. As most of the starting positions in the CFL are the Canadian alignment, obviously. Most teams start like 4 Canadian alignment in the CFL. But the skill positions, the American players usually have the edge. But there are some players, star Canadian players in CFL, who are even better than the American guys. As Andrew Harris was better than most of the American guys even in the CFL. And he was an undrafted free agent. Andrew Harris. He was he was arguably the best running back in the league for a few years. Andrew Harris. He's Canadian. And John Cornish was by far the best running back in the league, and he was Canadian too. Obviously, because he's Canadian, they didn't give him the other awards. He got most outside Canadian. The CFL's biased, man. Doesn't matter how good you do up here, you're not going to get the other MVP awards. You get your separate outside Canadian. The CFL's biased, obviously. What was I going to talk about earlier? I forget. Well, the reason why, even though the Americans who come up here obviously are a bit more talented than the Canadian players, because the CFL is a Canadian football brand, and the fans resonate more with the Canadian players. They have their Canadian bias. They have greater market value than the American players. That's why the Canadians are more valuable to the CFL than the American players. And even though the American players have the edge and talent over most of the best Canadian players in Canada, they're NFL rejects. They're not the best players. Don't hate me, guys. They're not the best players playing in America. Whereas the best players the Canadian players playing in the CFL are actually the best players playing in Canada. Just like the best players playing in the NFL were the best players who played in NCAA. You guys get the picture there? That's why they're more valuable to the league. But because they're not as talented, that's why the league, they just have a bias towards the American players. But they're not. The American players come here are not as valuable. They're not. And the league knows it. Yeah, they're not, Ivan, but they're like, because you Canadian players are not as talented as the American players, we can't do that, Ivan. It's too risky. They're a bit more talented, you guys. We gotta start all these American guys. because they put on more of a show. Yeah, they may put on a show, CFL, but people in Canada don't really care about these guys. Get rid of them. There you go, Hameson. Yeah, get rid of them. Why? Is the CFL committee Canadian? Yeah, the CFL committee, they're all Canadian people. And even they're biased towards the American guys because the what? Because even though they're Canadian, even though the CFL committee is Canadian, obviously, in the CFL with the league, obviously, because they want to really grow the brand in Canada, we have to put on quality football for television. Like, we have to have the majority of the stars be the American players. That way, it's better quality football. Like, because they're blinded by the American talent. They put on more of a show. It's more quality football. But what you're doing, CFL, is what you're limiting the opportunity for the best Canadian players to play. And you think the best way to market the CFL is by promoting the brand with American talent from a different country who the fans don't really care about. They don't resonate that much. They don't resonate that well with. And they're also NFL rejects. So you want to promote the CFL brand with what? American NFL rejects. CFL. Like, really? I think they're a bit more talented, yes, but no one cares about these guys. Like, be honest, guys. Do people in Canada really care about these guys, man? They don't care about these guys. Just get rid of them and have the best players in Canada compete. Your brand will grow. I'm going to promote the brand. It will grow. You'll make more money, man. I'm doing it. I'm sorry. Never going to happen, though. Because it's a little bit risky, obviously. I do think it's risky making that move. I don't know, a little bit, because the quality will dip a little bit. But if you promote the Canadian talent, you know what I'm saying? What? The league can make more money, man. Like, the CFL can make double what it's making now. In 10 years, the league can be pulling in $500 million a year in revenue, I believe. 400 million a year in revenue in 10 years, I believe, right? If they make this change. But they're not going to do that because the CFL is blinded by the American talent, and they see it as risky, obviously. It's risky, obviously. Because there'll be a different quality. The Canadians are just not as athletic as the American guys. The American guys have a bit of the edge over the Canadian guys, obviously.